we're headed back to our base, and walking down a road, and ID blew up below my feet. I felt myself hit the ground, sat up to see that both my legs were gone. I didn't know it at the time, but my right arm was also nearly completely cut off at the elbow. And my soldiers ran up to me, put tourniquets on my limbs, and called in a medevac helicopter. I think the total time was maybe about 30 minutes from the time that the blast went off to when the helicopter picked me up. I was conscious for most of it, and I remember most of it. Put me on the helicopter, and I blacked out, and more or less woke up 3 days later in San Antonio, Texas, at Brooke Army Medical Center.
No matter what walk of life you come from, there's always some kind of PTS or TBI, whether you're a firefighter, a police officer, a nurse, a doctor, or a veteran, or even active duty men and women. And it's been such a pleasure over the last couple of years to really focus on that.
So I joined the military, and when I graduated high school in 2003, it was one of the greatest honors of my life to be able to have had the privilege of leading not one but 2 platoons during my time as a junior officer, and getting to lead American soldiers in combat and during a time of war was a great honor. And suddenly I found myself as a young lieutenant getting ready to deploy to a combat zone. The American people counting on me, my soldiers counting on me, their families counting on me. The day I got injured was May 26th, 2011. I was serving in a platoon leader position, pretty rural farmland, so we didn't have vehicles there. We did all of our patrols on foot. I tell people sometimes that as chaotic as the initial injury was, the blast, and being there on some dirt road in the middle of nowhere, Afghanistan, fighting for my life and wondering what's coming, am I gonna die? If I don't die, is this body gonna be something I wanna live with? We had no medic with us on patrol that day, so medics these days are the only ones that carry morphine, so we had no pain meds. I basically just had a spare t-shirt one of my soldiers had to bite down on, and scream and hope for the end to come soon or for the helicopter to come. I think the real nightmare begins when you get back home, because that little really intense adrenaline-packed moment, it's only 30 minutes or so. Everything that comes after waking up in a hospital in Texas is going to be with me for the rest of my life. Having thought that I was going to die, and suddenly waking up and having my brother stand beside me, having my mom come in shortly later, a short time later, to be able to tell her I love her. I didn't think I was going to get to do that. So then maybe initially there was a lot of excitement that, I cheated death, and things are going to be better. But as the reality of my situation sat in, sent me in a very downward spiral towards depression, just avoiding going to public places, avoiding leading a socially active life was not the right answer. I was still young, still have a lot more good years to live, and I didn't want to just hide from it. So the process was almost like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, sometimes 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. There's times where I lost ground in my recovery and had to rebuild it all back up. It was a journey that was a pretty crazy roller coaster ride. And suddenly I found myself confined to a wheelchair. With a wheelchair, most of the time you are not off the beaten path, you're actually restricted to the paved paths. My options were pretty limited. I would need somebody else, like my brothers or someone, to be with me to help push me across gravel or lift me down some steps or just a simple street curb. iBot comes into play because it kind of wipes out a lot of those barriers. My son Teddy is almost 3 years old, and if anyone's listening out there has ever had a 3-year-old, good luck getting them to stay on the sidewalk. It was all still such a difficult journey. I can't imagine anybody trying to do this process alone. Should he run off somewhere onto the grass or, heaven forbid, run out into the road, I don't have to stop and kind of just trace my steps back and have to go all the way down to the neck. I can just go after him. I'd be able to go off that curb and go get him. So just from a parental, like, being able to take care of my kids on my own and being able to do it properly and safely, you know, be a responsible parent, being able to show him things in nature and go off the sidewalk over to the edge of the forest and be able to point out mushrooms and caterpillars and ants and spiders and things like that. So being able just to open up more of the world for me to be able to access once again is a huge, huge life changer and major improvement in my life.
I think the biggest part of the iBot program is really giving freedom and independence back to those that have lost it through service. And what the iBot does, it gives empowerment and the ability to chat with somebody at eye level, something we don't even think about.
Yeah, the idea of being able to be brought up to eye height with everybody else, it's nice. To anyone out there who supports the Robert Irvine Foundation, thank you. Thank you not only for myself, but on behalf of any beneficiaries of this program. Really can make enormous changes in people's lives. You definitely helped this one individual and his family for sure.
The Robert Irvine Foundation is making a huge difference with great partners to bring independence to those folks. And you're all part of that. It really means something to me personally after many years of sitting at events. And you've seen it, where you'll be at an event and there'll be a serviceman or a woman. When you're bound to a wheelchair, there is no freedom. The Robert Irvine Foundation is making a huge difference with great partners. The iBot is restoring the freedom, the independence, and giving that command structure back into somebody when they walk in that room and they own it. Because everybody that wears a cloth of a nation commands a room. We're going to change somebody's life to restore their independence, to restore their ability to live without restriction. And you're all in on this. And because of your generosity, we can do this. Are you ready?